The Gospel of Philip. You know what? That's a special book. I want to cover that in this video. I've not done that in 3 years. I've learned a lot over time that allows me to actually read it better than I did in the beginning or understand it better. I'm going to suggest that there is this idea pervasive in the background that these can be read in two different ways, that there's esoteric knowledge that is available, that if one understands what that is, there's a certain way to read these that unlocks something, that makes them mentally interactive steps that heal one's life, that one can, it provides, honestly, to break it down, it provides a pathway to enlightenment, held in a way that is not a pathway to enlightenment, but a way of life, a religion. It's a genre of carrier for something deeper. And that template is based on the sequences of a human life and how we come about as mental products and how we hurt and how we heal to change our life. That is common in antiquity. That is what we're going to find here that I'm going to suggest. Now, my name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. This is going to be different. If you are a Christian and you hear my interpretations of Jesus about, being poor in spirit means mentally empty, devoid of up here, that's what it means. If you're okay with that idea, that's how I'm going to treat Jesus, as if nothing supernatural is going to come from my interpretation. Nothing at all. I will make no claims and say, you just have to believe it, or it's obvious because of this and that, and this and that makes this and that, and this can't happen. I won't do any of that stuff. There's a template in here that's viewable, and it goes right on the human psyche. We're going to enter the narrow gate with the material. And we're going to find in here that there is something as common as Buddha's Dhammapada or the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu or many other pathways to inner enlightenment, that is what is in here. However, it's carried in a genre that is religious and supernatural instead of self-healing. Let me just cover this real quick. I think a lot of people know it, but this is how I'm going to manage this material. Again, if I were some Chinese peasant 2,500 years ago and my life was hurt and I went and found the master on the mountaintop and asked him, Master Lao Tzu, what is life about? He would start right off telling me something incredibly cryptic. That we don't have any technology. We're on foot. We're walking. We're thinking. We're yelling across the canyon at each other if we want to talk, or we have to walk to town. So this is not just plain language, here you go, like we try to do today. This is something that is meant to be figured out. It's a puzzle, and in the act of figuring it out, you're wiring your brain to become this, not just know it academically, but to know it experientially. So I say, Master, I hurt. What do I do? And he starts, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. I don't need to keep going on. I'm gonna have to memorize this, take it away, and figure out what this means to me, how I interact with this. And there is a way to do so. This becomes my guru right here. If I was in Tibet or northern India someplace, or about the same time frame, and I had the same questions and I went to the Buddha, he would have the same knowledge. While Lao Tzu is going to be teaching me that I'm a product of my thinking and that what I hang on to keeps occurring, Buddha is going to, if I ask him what's life about, he becomes my guru. And he's going to start off like this. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. These are stored memories and perceptions that are actually what is at the deepest level. The evil thought there is not an evil thought. They're analogous terms that make it sound more difficult than it is. Okay, that's just to set this up. What I want you to know is that those are my gurus. And when I read the Gospel of Philip, I'm going to put it in the same category. It's like I just went somewhere else. Now I am in, I'm with these people at this time during Roman occupation, and this material is still spreading around, but it's coming to me. Now I want my version of it. I'm not that Buddha guy. I don't want to hear that. I'm not that. Oh, what's the Jesus one? Jesus has the same teaching. Jesus is going to be a Buddha or a Lao Tzu type teacher in this material. If you're okay with that. Some people are not. What this provides is an incredibly consistent interpretation system. If I use the interpretation process here to uncover what is there, the exact same process here, I will come to the same conclusion. The exact same process here, I will come to the same conclusion. Therefore, I don't deviate from that process. That is how, here's what happened. There's a human life cycle. Here is how everybody comes about. You're born, you're a certain quality, you start having life experiences, you judge those, we become products of those, we cling on to them. At some point, we want to let go of them. We realize that's what hurt us. We want to find a way to extract ourselves. We have to turn inward and heal our pain and shame, all that kind of stuff. That's the template. Does that deviate? No. That's how life comes about. No matter who's teaching it, that's the template. What do they do then is they take that and say, as soon as you begin to have life experiences that you judge, then that is what is the problem. Naming is the origin of all particular things. I've judged it. If a man thinks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him like the foot of the wheel follows the hoof of the ox that draws the carriage. The cycle of pain, mental process. Jesus has a version right in Matthew, judging others. This is from the Sermon on the Mount, part of it. Do not judge so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. And that's not physical, it's in the mental realm. We exist in a cosmos, in a flow together. So the quality of our life up here and what we have judged in life continues to return to us. Yeah, Jesus, Lao Tzu, the Buddha, same teaching, different crowds at different times. They are going to get us to the same place in different language. They're simply changing the analogous verbiage. So what we're going to do is find that that's the same thing here. It's on that template. It's going to follow those same sort of sequences. What do we have here? Inheriting the living and the dead. Jesus, Gentiles, Christians. I'm going to cover this in a little bit. We're going to get into it. Sowing and reaping. Cycles. Christ came, the emergence, light and darkness, divisions, separations, words and names. This is where the naming takes place. The name of the Father, truth. It's going to go through the same, roughly the same teaching sequence with verbiage that sounds completely different for a different people and a different time. It's a different guru. However, these gurus both tell you it's up to you. This guru tells you it's up to you if you find the path, and if you don't find the path, you can carry this outer shell and feel good about yourself. That's called Christianity. Gnosticism is Christianity too. That is believing that is having the analogous outer carrying verbiage structured in such a way that it hooks into people's minds and causes them to carry that as a belief system, not realizing that they've got that nested template in there. You ready for that? That's how this is going to go. It's a big setup, but it has to make sense when I go into this. People go, "What are you doing?" And that is exactly what I am doing. I am looking for that commonality between them. And when I find that commonality, I'm happy. If anybody along the way says, nope, this is the only right one, nope, this is the only right one, or whatever it is, then they haven't found out that they're all framed on one template. That's the right way. Every religion is New Age. The template existed before the need for religions did. Okay, with that having been said, let's get into it. I'm going to be using the Marvin Meyer edition, and I'll post a link below. I found this online where I was just able to copy it and paste it into a Word document, which I needed to do. As far as authenticity, what I want everybody to know is if you've been following my work with the 3s and the 7s and the structures, look at this right here. I'm just going to throw this out here. I'm not going to do this in the interpretation, but I want to just show that I am convinced this material comes from the same place as Matthew, Mark, Luke. It might come around later, but somebody is using the same, the Jewish developed template. But they're using a numbering grid system in the background to obscure the template. It's hard to see it unless you know what to look for. So take a look at these things right here. And again, I'm not going to do this in the interpretation. This is just for people that have been following my work and going, What's this wacko numbering system he's talking about? Look, it continues. I will quickly refresh that numbering system, and it starts in Genesis in the first creation story on day 7, where in the end it says 7 3 times. That's where the Bible says, and then God finished on day 7 from all the work that he had done, and God rested on day 7 from all the work that he had done, and God saw that it was good. Or I got that mixed up a little bit. Right there is, on day 7 is said 3 times in a kind of a cumbersome way, but that 7 and 3 is where it starts right there. If you look at your own Bible and it says 6, on day 6 he finished and then he rested, it says 6 and 7 instead of 7 3 times. The 7 said 3 times is English from downstream from the Torah, and 6 and the 2 that is there, it's a slight variation. If you see it, that is actually from the Septuagint. That is the Greek translation from the Torah. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to start with the Torah. That's the original one. If yours says 6 and 7, I'm not using that one. You will see differences though. And then as we get further downstream from that, what those have done has been analogs that were developed to create that disconnected time and place when we were children before we started our life experiences. So we see right here, I've got my 7 and 3, but then what you see later on is like righteous. If you get down into the Sodom story where Abraham is talking to God and asking him, would you destroy it? If there were 50 righteous there, would you destroy it for the sake of 50? And God's reply is, no, if there were 50 there, I would not. If there were 50 righteous there, I would not destroy it for the sake of the 50 righteous. And it goes through this cumbersome 50, 40, 30 countdown sort of a thing, and it says righteous exactly 7 times. And so every number that appears with so righteous becomes now the same point, an analog for the same point, plus the numbers that it's linking to that are repeated become points here also. And they continue to shore up elsewhere. They continue to point here. I won't be as detailed here, but if you were to see 800 right there, it's repeated a lot. And if you were to search 800, you would see it appears 7 times. And then with each 800, you've got a 7, 15, 40, 30. You can see that when you find 7s linked together, that they're pointing to and shoring these up right here. It's a code that we would know if we had these stories memorized like them, but we don't. Actually, that also shows up in the flood story where it says this twice. In 7 days, I will send rain for 40 days and 40 nights. So in 7 days, rain came for 40 days and 40 nights. So 7 is pointing to 40 again. And then, well, if you look in the version of the Septuagint, you'll find that Noah's name is said exactly 40 times too. So if we had these memorized, we would see something different. So we end up with righteous, covenant, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, 4, 1, Canaan, naked, barren, famine, 12. These are ones that I've collected up in Genesis. Now, why would we care about that here, you might ask, and here's why. Okay, very quickly, what I have here is the Gospel of Philip. I'm not going to interpret from this copy. This is one I'm just using for number counting. And what I've done is I've downloaded this into a Word document, and I've started looking, and I find things like a convert is said 3 times, Christian is said 7 times, Jesus 20 times, slave 15 times, dead 12 times, die 20 times, paradise 3 times, virgin 7 times, wisdom 7 times, barren 3 times, death 15 times. And to be clear, what we're doing here with this piling up of analogs is that this pattern is going to be repeated again and again in Jewish material. We need to start out at a heel point, a Garden of Eden, before we had attachments to the world. And this, instead of repeating that story over and over again or saying it one time, what we do is we repeat it over and over again by creating analogs in a special way that downstream we don't have to keep saying 3 and 7, although, boy, those are said so much anyway. If you go through all of the material, they heard it in their head, word of mouth. They didn't get it in one big pile like we do. We get to see all of that stuff in there anyway. But that's the reason why the numbers are there. And all of these other things are going to become analogous terms that now if you want 7, 3, Eden, Oh, I'm righteous. Oh, there's a covenant. Any of these terms, 40 day, the 40th year or 40 something here, 3 daughters, 7 sons, all of these are going to be representing the same mental space. That's how it gets hidden. And the reason that is important for what I am about to do with interpretation is that it's very important to see right here that these names established right in the beginning, a Hebrew makes a Hebrew, and such a person is called a convert. A convert does not make a convert. Okay, so as we start looking at those, Hebrew comes up 6 times, and it doesn't fit. Hebrew is an old self. It's not a pure self. However, as we get into convert, that's said 7 times, or 3 times. Christian, 7 times. Jesus, 20 times. Slave, 15 times. Dead, 12 times. Die, 20. Paradise, 3. Virgin, 7. Wisdom, 7. Barren, 3. Death, 15. Throughout the Gospel of Philip, all of these are analogs now that mean that same pure point. Naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden, which means truly childhood, happy-go-lucky. I have not lived life. I still thought everything in front of me was wonder. Now I look back and go, what the hell happened? It's between then and now we need to get back to this point here. And that's what's hidden in the story. The path to the beginning. I apologize for how long it takes to set this up, but there's something that's very structured going on, and that is what I have to set in place. If I could just jump into interpretation and it would be like that, I don't know where this guy's going. It's something different. This is something that plays out in my psyche. This entire story is my guru. I'm not going to be looking to be a Taoist. I'm not going to be looking to be a Buddhist. I'm going to be looking to be a Christian. That doesn't mean what we think Christian is. That is the analog. Christian is analog. Okay, we're going to look at that. That means when we put it on the template, Christian really means that pure state of self, that I am disconnected. I am no longer judging the world and living through these experiences that I drag with me. I have found a way to shed that stuff, to let it go, to free myself from the burdens of that, the things that I'm hanging on to. Ultimately is what we're looking for. And a Christian is that person among all of the other analogs that we just created right here as the story comes about. We have to understand analogs mean something different in the psyche than they do on the outside. Being covered being naked means I'm not covered with anything. Fasting means that I am shutting off input from the world. I'm disconnecting from all the things that are happening out there, and I'm ceasing to live through them. That's a good thing to fast. It's a good thing to starve. When you start out in a place of famine, that means you're devoid of. That's a good place. That's like starting out in the Garden of Eden where you're naked, unashamed. Adam and Eve, there's a mental hierarchy. That's conscious and subconscious, which is another step we're going to talk about in here. All of these characters of God, Father, Mother, children, all of that play out in a mental hierarchy. They have to fit someplace in the psyche. God is going to be the higher self. Father probably is going to be the consciousness here. The wife is the inner self, our subconscious. What holds when you were little, that wasn't there. As we grew and we begin to put things into that, our hatred, our shame, our anger, our judgments, all of that stuff becomes a part of us, that becomes the offspring then, the good or the bad offspring that are going to be taking over from us, from our choices, from our decisions. We are really making decisions unbeknownst to us, and we are becoming a product of those decisions. And the way these stories are held create a pathway, a mechanism to understand that. If we understand that mental hierarchy is in place and that they're using that family unit right there to represent parts in here, not parts out there. We got to make that transition. Okay, let's get started. Okay, yes, this is from the Nag Hammadi Library and specifically the Gospel of Philip. This is translated by Marvin Meyer. This original translation appears in the Gnostic Society Library by permission of Marvin Meyer, who retains all copyright. Headings in bold text are added for clarification by Dr. Meyer. Numbers in brackets indicate page numbers in the original codex. For academic citation, always use published versions of this text. I have a published version of this text right here. All right, the Gospel of Philip. Let's begin. A Hebrew makes a Hebrew, and such a person is called a convert. A convert does not make a convert. Some people are as they are and make others like them, while others simply are. Okay, these are those cryptic things that we have to make it a part of us. This is about me. However, it might be difficult to grab onto it right here in the beginning. We might have to read through a few lines and get down a little ways to get a better overall picture of what that first line means. And I'm going to suggest that we do that. Now, all the dark stuff that is these parts right in here were added in by the translator. They're not a part of the original text. This converts, inheriting the living dead, Jesus, Gentiles, Christians. In fact, as I do searches, you'll notice that I've got these. I will have to go in here and put. I leave them spelled right, but I somehow break them up with asterisks in order to make sure when I'm doing word search that, well, counts have been added in inadvertently by somebody that didn't know there were word counts that we're trying to isolate out of here. Okay. Let's move on. A slave seeks only to be free and does not seek the master's estate. Okay, what I'm going to tell you right now is a slave is our inner self that wants. Imagine living life and going, I don't know why it's not okay. The things I want do not happen, and the things I don't want do happen. I am somehow a slave. I seek to be free. I don't want the estate of whoever's in charge. I don't want to take over from myself. I want something different. Okay, I am a slave, and the master is. So this is the slave-master relationship here is a hierarchy, a mental hierarchy. The master's the one who made it, whether the master knows that or not. A slave is our inner self. We don't want to live that way. For a child, it is not enough to be a child, but a child claims the father's inheritance. Same thing, same hierarchy, they just changed the analogs. It went from slave to child and from master to father, inheritance to estate. Those are two lines that mean the same thing. My inner self or my inner self, my child, it is not enough to be that inner self, but a child claims the father's inheritance. What this is telling me is that as the father, the consciousness makes choices, then I become a product of those choices. That is what the child is in me. The child are things that may be good or may be bad. This is just us creating ourselves. Maintain thinking that through, though. This is all a mental process that we're getting to. The Father's inheritance. What has the Father done? This is our conscious judging life experiences that I don't like it. I have shame. I have somehow hatred. Somehow something is there. The child is the product of that. And the child, that is what the child inherits. And then whatever the fear was that the father, that the conscious felt at the time it was put away, that is how the child continues to experience it. That is actually what the child is. Fear, and that experience is the offspring of that moment in time. Heirs to the dead are dead, and what they inherited is dead. Heirs to the living are alive, and they inherit both the living and the dead. The dead inherit nothing, for how could a dead person inherit? If a dead person inherits the living will not die, and the dead will not come to life. Okay, the first thing I want to say is that dead was created as an analog earlier, but doesn't hold up right here. So I'm not going to use the numbering system on this one, although it looks like there's a lot of common things. Again, there's some things that aren't quite right with it. And the material itself was in bad shape. So I think the Gospel of Philip wasn't too bad, but certainly there's been things that were missing. So there could be counts missing or added in or whatnot. Okay. In this case, we have to unwrap it, but it's going to fit pretty much with the one that went right prior to it. For a child, it is not enough to be a child, but a child claims the father's inheritance. That means that a child really is a product of what the father, it's an offspring of our choices. Now down here, we're going to say an heir, that's the child, the offspring, us, our early self. And dead is going to be a poor inheritance, something that is not understood. This is actually the opposite of like knowledge. All right, I got to be careful. I get to struggling talking through these things. What I've done right here is I'm just going to redefine these. If I go through here and I realize that some of the things that they're using for terms are analogous and they mean something different, how would I know which ones do and which ones don't? The only way to be consistent is to treat every word as if it means something different and try to find out what it is. And in this case, heirs to the dead are dead. This is my early self or my offspring of whatever my experiences are. What are they going to get? What I've done right down here is I've taken heirs and I've put down that those are also offspring. They're parts of us given birth to through experience and emotion. When something acts out of me because it's painful, that is an entity on its own. And then it can go away and not arrive, not show up for a while. That's an heir. That's an offspring. The dead, this is not being aware. Blindly connecting to life experience is ignorance. This is something we all do. We need to know that it's okay. We are dead. We are ignorant. What we're doing early on in life is just viewing life and saying, oh, that sucks. Ooh, I like that. That's being dead. That's just connecting to life experiences and becoming products of our memories and our perceptions. So it's all the hurt stuff that we accumulate that we need to go after. What I've done is I've rephrased the entire thing down here then based on that right there. And I would read it if I was to interpret it and read it in my head, it would sound something like this. My inner qualities from ignorance are ignorant, and what I get is ignorance. My qualities from awareness and detachment are spiritual freedom, and I will understand ignorance and awareness. The ignorant gain nothing, for how could an ignorant person inherit? If an ignorant person gains awareness, the awareness will not turn to ignorance, and the ignorant will have come to life. This is about waking up. This is about turning inward. This is about transitioning from an heir, an offspring, a slave, inheriting from what there is and trying to emerge as something different. If I move along down here, we have a Gentile does not die, never having been alive so as to die. One who has believed in truth is alive, but this person is at risk of dying just by being alive. Since Christ came, the world has been created, cities have been beautified, and the dead have been buried. When we were Hebrews, we were orphans with only a mother, but when we became Christians, we had a father and a mother. Okay, right down here, I'm going to wrap some things up and return to the top. Christian is what we want to be. Hebrew right here, orphan, the way to go back up ahead. A Gentile does not die, never having been alive so as to die. What we're going to do in this case, in all the material, we're transitioning from one thing to another. Hebrews, Gentiles, something, and we want to be the believers. In this case, the Christians are the good guys. So as we follow this, we want to become the Christian. But that's really what on the template you'll just see as we go along. That is us if we are on an inner path. Read this again. When we were Hebrews, we were orphans with only a mother. What did it say at the top? A Hebrew makes a Hebrew, and such a person is called a convert. See, I don't get this right here. A Hebrew makes a Hebrew. A Hebrew sounds like the early self. This is when you are unaware. This is before you begin the journey. So a person who is unaware makes a person who is unaware, and such a person is called a convert. That I don't get. A convert does not make a convert. Some people are as they are and make others like them, while others simply are. It almost sounds like a couple of things are going on here. It sounds actually a little convoluted. That first line still, I don't get where they're coming up with convert in that definition. To me, a convert is somebody who makes the transition. At first I was asleep, now I'm awake. I became a convert. A convert does not make a convert. Why? Because everybody has to take the path on their own. Nobody can make a convert. Only a person. Maybe that's what this means. A Hebrew makes a Hebrew, a self makes a self, and such a person is called a convert. You become a convert on your own, that's it. But a convert does not make another convert. Some people are as they are and make others like them. Some people are blind and the people just become blind with them, while others simply are. Not everybody connects that way. Some people stay detached. There we go. A slave only seeks to be free and does not seek the master's estate. I don't want to be a quality of my thinking along the way. Same thing right here. I'm going to claim my father's inheritance, and I don't want to. Down here, my qualities from ignorance are ignorant, and what I get is ignorance, not being aware. I get life experiences attached, not aware of the fact that my life is judged based on the final version of what I saw happening, physical life. I'm not understanding cause and effect. So I'm just riding the wave of humanity, not aware of the fact that I'm going along for the ride. I'm not detached from it. Once you do that, though, if an ignorant person gains awareness, once you figure out how to detach from that, you don't go back and reattach to it. You don't move that direction. Once you become free, you don't become reattached again. Well, unless you give up the path. A Gentile does not die never having been alive so as to die. So what this is saying is somebody who has never been aware. This is not physical death. This is a death in the spiritual realm. A Gentile does not die never having been alive so as to die. Here, I just tried to reword it. A Gentile, the unaware person, does not die, does not become unaware. Life is being aware and having freedom from what you're connected to. Unaware is being connected to all of that. That's death, die. So an unaware person does not become unaware, having never been aware to begin with. One who knows the true path is aware, but is at risk of becoming ignorant just by being aware. Since Christ came, the world has been created. Cities have been beautified and the dead have been buried. Christ is a inner consciousness. Christ is like a Buddha nature, a Christ nature. Since this awareness comes, the world, my inner world, has been created. Cities, the things that I hold on to, my qualities, my values, all of those have been created and are beautified. I no longer have ugly places. And the dead have been buried. All of the things that were unaware have been put to rest. The things that I have not resolved in my past have now been resolved. When we were Hebrews, we were orphans with only a mother. We only acted out through our subconscious. We didn't know. We had been created by life experiences, by the Father. But when we were Hebrews, we obviously we were orphans with only a mother. That means that is a part of us that is acting out. But when we became Christians, we had a father and a mother. Now we understand that there's a conscious, a subconscious, and there's offspring that need to work together for this healing process. Then it goes on, whoever sows in winter reaps in summer. This is sowing and reaping is going to be cause and effect. Winter is the world. Summer is the other eternal realm. Okay, so the other eternal realm is when you're operating on autopilot. Winter is the world. The world is when we are consciously living life experiences. And the eternal realm is when we're living through our life experiences from the inside instead of the outside. Whoever sows in winter reaps in summer. Winter is the world. So whatever we decide in the physical realm, whatever. Summer, the other realm, when we're not paying attention, is what emerges. Let us sow in the world to reap in summer. So what we want to do is go, let us sow in the world to reap in summer. So you want to make sure that what you put away, what you store, what you think of, what you become as your mental qualities are going to act out in summer. And honestly, if you're familiar with the saying, as within, so without, that's it. That the things that you are putting away in the winter, the things that you're putting away in the conscious, the things that I'm deciding in my physical life experiences, what I'm judging, what I am becoming a part of as a result of the way I hold those memories and the emotional state against them, or that I have with them, coupled with them, that is what I have reaped in the winter. And it is going to emerge. This means it's going to come up when it's in cycle, or when it's in season. You know, when you plant something, when it's in season, it emerges. And that's a version of this right here. When you get triggered, you get triggered. Something is going to come out. And, yeah. And for this reason, we should not pray in winter. We need to know what pray is. Pray does not mean asking God for anything. You're looking for good graces. For this reason, we should not pray in winter. Don't look for good graces in the winter. Don't do something and expect it to happen now. Do something good and keep doing something good, and it will emerge. It's going to flow, but it's not going to flow instantly. There we go. From winter comes summer. If someone reaps in winter, the person will not really reap, but will pull out the young plant, and such do not produce a crop. That person's field is barren. Not only now, but also on the Sabbath. You know what? A barren field is good. We're seeking emptiness. We're seeking poor in spirit. We want that. That means devoid of what is in our garden, which means the memories, the things we hold inside of us that continue to grow out of us through our life experiences and manifest themselves, called fruit or crop, but really is the manifested behavior, our physical experience, the emotions of it at the end. Damn, I had a bad day. Yeah, we grew nothing but thistles, huh? It was a good day today. Oh, good. Must have had some nice figs and whatnot. You know what? I recognize this as a version of something. Let me stop and think about this and talk about this for a second. It's New Testament Jesus material that is in the Bible. This is a variant of it. Yeah, what is it? That when you come to the altar to leave your gift and you remember that you have aught against your brother, don't give your gift. Set it down first and go resolve the ought first. Then come back and give your gift, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. Okay, if we think that went through, what's on the template there is the reason you are at the altar is because you're looking for good graces. You want a better life, and you're trying to give something up. Please, oh my God, I want a better life. But you remember that there's issues unresolved that are in the past. This isn't just, ought against your brother. This is, what are you holding up here that isn't okay? It goes to that level if you can manage it. If you resolve that, then everything else just flows. Come back and now look for the good graces, and it happens automatically. What did we have here? Whoever sows in the winter reaps in summer. Winter is the world. Summer is the other eternal realm. So let us sow in the world to reap in the summer. And for this reason, we should not pray in winter. All right, let's try to put that in plain language and make it interactive. Whoever decides life quality from their physical experience continues to experience the fruits of it. This is a version of as within, so without. We have become qualities of what we have planted in the physical world and our physical experiences. That's where they made it thick, but it's there. Do not ask for goodness while hurt is emerging. Garden the weeds instead. I added that in myself. But it's like, if you want to leave a gift at the altar and you realize you have aught against your brother, you've had an experience in the world that needs to be resolved. You don't ask for good help while things are bad. You have to resolve what makes the bad things bad. And that's mental. Okay, I'm going to end it here. I don't know how people will take the interpretation. It's a crapshoot, honestly. It's not that popular. People do tend to prefer staying in the supernatural realm. If you go look at Gnostic stuff, you'll find, for me, it doesn't sound very different from Christian. Between them, it's a lot of difference. the more you see, the more you realize that things contain incredible similarities and the differences are not very significant. To me, I see the material being used two directions, facing outward or facing inward. And anybody facing outward is facing outward. They're going the same direction. Even if they're slightly off, I'm taking this road, I'm taking this road, you're still heading out away from the source. Whoever turns inward with it, there's only one path right there. That's through your own narrow gate, into your own life. But it's not for many people. Quite honestly, that I use the term Gnostic, but when I read the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Philip is getting close there. Yeah, they're Gnostic. They're definitely not. I don't think they fit really with the Nag Hammadi scriptures, and they're collections of different things. When you get into really serious Gnosticism and all of the terminology that they have going on, they're following the same teaching as anybody else. They're just using their own lingo to do it. Now, you don't follow somebody else's path. You create your own, but you still create it on the same template. So it just depends on how much you want to learn weird stuff, which is what I find. All of it is weird stuff. But Philip is one that is actually more like it's like a denser version of other Jesus material. It's still going to follow a pattern. I find it unique. I find that it seems strange in there. I don't think people, when I watch people, talk about it, I kind of cringe at what they come up with. It's just they treat it like a religious text, honestly. And I don't treat religion is a genre. Religion is a carrying case. Many different coverings on the outside, but that's what they are. So, okay, well, let me know. I didn't get very far into it. There was a lot of setup, and if somebody wanted me to, I could keep on doing interpretation and just jump right into where I left off. And, as long as all that people know what I'm doing and where I'm going with it and why I'm doing it that way. They can agree with it or not. Who's right? Hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.